The start of a new year means that for many employees, it's time to consider looking for a new job. For those in the technology space, is it a good time to look compared with last year? And what are the hottest skills that companies are looking for from their technology employees? We're going to chat all things job market on this episode of Today in Tech. Welcome to Today in Tech. I'm Keith Shaw. Joining me on today's show is Lucas Mirian. He is a senior writer at Computer World. Good to see you again, Lucas, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
We had you on this time last year. We've had you also through on the show throughout 2023. But it is the start of the new year, and it's a really good time to talk about the job market, especially in the IT/tech space. There's a bunch of new articles I want to talk to you about, and then get your sense of where we're at the moment. For example, there was a Boston Consulting Group survey of 11,000 employees that showed 28% of workers say they do not see themselves with their employer within a year, which indicates that more than 1/4 of your staff might be looking for new work. Second, there was a Wall Street Journal article this week suggesting that finding a new job is getting harder in 2024, with employers finishing 2023 with far fewer positions than at the start of the year. This is according to down 15% on Indeed.com, and that's where they get their numbers. And then the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that the number of Americans who voluntarily quit their jobs hit the lowest level in November, and this was since September of 2020, suggesting that, again, the labor market is cooling. So these are all general business stories where you hear about, the general overall job market. Are you seeing the same thing in the IT jobs market space, or is it still an outlier when you consider the market?
More of an outlier. There's some cooling, but it's interesting. There's a shuffling going on. So you're going to see fewer jobs in the mega corporations and the enterprises, the Microsofts, the Metas, the Googles, because they went on a hiring spree during and after, so right after COVID.
Right.
And over the past year, we've seen that tick down, but there's also a dearth of IT talent out there. There are a lot of jobs, like by some estimates, over 3.3 million job openings out there in tech. And the problem has been for smaller companies, SMBs, in finding talent to fill those roles. So now they've got a chance because some of these massive layoffs that have been happening have made this talent available to them. Yeah.
Is January really the best time to begin a new job search, or is it just because people like in the media were like, we need content? Oh, new year resolution, find a new job, and maybe that's why. And again, I'm guilty of it myself. I was like, oh, I need to start off the new year with Lucas in the job market space.
Early spring tends to be the best time. There's nothing wrong with looking for a job in January either.
Yeah.
I thought probably the worst time to look for a job is the end of the year because
November and December are the worst times. Yeah.
Right, because they're literally, companies are looking to adjust their numbers. They're looking to they're adjusting their numbers for the end of the year, the last quarter, in case they're down. That's when the layoffs occur. The first quarter of the year, typically they have a good handle on how their revenue is. It's going to go for that year. They're projecting it, but typically the second quarter is the best time.
And that's usually when the budgets are opened up and they're like, okay, now you can hire, and maybe that's when the process really begins. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And in the tech world, you were talking about there being 15% fewer job openings, but in the tech world, it's only from last quarter to this -1%. And you got to remember that the unemployment rate in tech is almost half that of the general overpopulation unemployment rate. So it was 2% in November. The numbers are going to come out tomorrow from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. I don't expect it to change dramatically.
Yeah, I think that some of the estimates were that it was going to be fewer jobs out there, or fewer new jobs expected. So they're again contributing to that cooling labor market narrative, but you're saying in the tech space that it's probably not going to be as drastic. So should a tech worker ignore a lot of these headlines that they might be seeing in the Wall Street Journal and some of these the publications, and really just focus? Well, I've still got valuable tech skills that can contribute to a new job.
So right now there's this skills mismatch happening in the tech space. A lot of folks who came out of college with computer science degrees.
Yep.
And not a lot of skills packed up behind them on their resume, especially soft skills. communication skills, team building skills, the ability to learn. That's what companies are looking for, because technology is changing so fast now, especially with artificial intelligence. They're looking for people who can adapt and move laterally or vertically within the organization. So learn new skills and move up and out. So that's what you really want to focus on. You put those skills, those soft skills, high up in your resume. Don't get so settled down in your college degree and your hard skills. Although hard skills are still very valuable, you want to learn some of the new skills like AI engineering, like prompt engineering, a lot of stuff having to do with artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Even though some of those skills will eventually probably go away completely as AI becomes more intelligent, more self-aware. But right now, they're still in demand. People need IT workers who can manipulate large language models for specific business purposes.
Yeah. You mentioned, I think, college graduates, and those are in that Generation Z demographic. You're seeing or hearing that they're having a difficult time to get that first job, especially since I've also seen that first jobs are generally the point at which you gain experience in a lot of these soft skills. Correct?
Yeah, it's more than 50% of Gen Z, according to at least one poll by a reskilling firm, showed that 54% of Gen Z professionals are taking between 4 and 9 months to secure their first entry-level role.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is because they simply don't have, like I said, the experience and the skills that more mature IT workers have. And that's what companies are looking for right now.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, I went to college many, many decades ago. And again, that first job was always about getting enough experience, and you did that through internships and kind of those types of jobs. Are those not happening anymore, or is it more just about the skill sets versus the actual experience on the resume?
Skills-based hiring. That's one of the trends that you're going to see. It's already in place now, but I think that's one of the trends you're going to see grow in 2024. Companies are looking for people with specific skills or the ability to learn new skills. So soft skills. They want you to be somebody who can critically think, so can problem solve, that can manage projects. These are some of the skills that they're looking for. These are the jobs, like IT project manager is one of the hot jobs this year.
Right.
Also cloud engineering and AI engineers. Those are hot jobs as well this year. So they're looking for people with experience and specific / soft skills. So some of those more hot skills that I just mentioned, but of course also the soft skills. Yeah, combination of the two.
Yeah. And you had mentioned artificial intelligence and some of the prompt engineering type of skills. What do you think is the best way for an employee or a worker to gain those skills? Should they just go out and try to get them themselves? Should they ask their companies to invest in some more training for those types of new AI related skills? Or, is it ask the company or do it yourself, or a mix of both?
It's a mix of both. Companies right now are focusing on training not just tech workers, but business employees as well. Like, generally speaking, they want people to become comfortable with using artificial intelligence. So across the company, they'll have courses. The largest, most progressive companies out there are doing that, training all employees. And then your IT department, your CIOs are focusing on specific skills for their IT workers. And security, privacy, big one.
Yeah.
Okay, so AI right now can't be trusted. It's producing results that, copyright infringement issues, data privacy issues, security issues, hallucinations, all sorts of issues are happening as this technology continues to mature. And they need employees who can recognize this and deal with it. So you're going to see a lot of jobs opening up for security, in security, especially as it relates to AI. DevSecOps and that sort of thing. But
you haven't seen any data yet that suggests that AI is especially in the IT space might be reducing or eliminating some of those entry-level jobs, are you? I've heard that there's a possibility that this will happen, and that might be the cause for why Gen Z is taking a little bit longer to get some of those entry-level jobs. But you haven't seen any hard evidence yet, have you?
None.
Yeah.
And I've talked to many CIOs, I've talked to CEOs, I've talked to analysts. Virtually across the board, people are saying, no, AI is not going to eliminate jobs. It's going to eliminate mundane tasks. So what? Yeah,
I chuckle because isn't that the point of an entry level job, is that you're doing something that nobody else wants to do, and that's why it's entry level.
Yeah, to a point, but
Yeah.
I think it also provides opportunity for you to enjoy the work more, because you're going to have to be more creative. They're looking for people to be more creative.
Yeah.
They're looking. So these are knowledge-based jobs now that they're looking for. So knowledge-skilled workers, not just people who can crunch data, because AI can do that for you now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although data scientists, still, there's a measure of creativity. I've talked to some of them, I'm honestly, some of those brilliant people when it comes to large language models and artificial intelligence, talk about stuff that I barely understand because they go so far down the rabbit hole. But one of the things they say is you're never going to take the human out of the loop. We are the creative entity behind this technology. So it's going to be more of an assistant than anything else. Is it going to eliminate some jobs? Well, yeah. I mean, some of the more mundane tasks, but I think it's also going to create new opportunities. That's one of the questions I asked people is, the industrial revolutions of the past absolutely eliminated some jobs. You didn't need buggy whips anymore. So those went away, but it created other jobs, including maintenance jobs. So you have new technology, like I'm just an example, like the steam engine, but somebody's got to be able to fix the steam engine. Somebody's got to be able to build the steam engine. Somebody's got to be able to, construct the parts for the steam engine. So it created a lot of new jobs. It's going to be very similar with artificial intelligence. There will be some jobs eliminated, but it's also going to create new jobs.
Yeah. And I got lost in my brain when you started saying buggy whip, and that was an actual position. I just figured
not a position. I'm just like a product, Okay. So buggy whips are not needed. Very much
the example
anymore,
I've always heard is telephone operator. Like that was one of those jobs that, in the early days of the telephone, you'd have these people working switchboards and, connecting.
Sure.
And you see those old movies where it's like Murray Hill 524. And like, I had no idea what that meant. Because again, when I grew up, it was all dial. Or push
Anybody
button.
over 40 probably remembers 411. I mean, people still use it as an acronym. So
there was another point you brought up about training the non-business users to be more focused on IT, and I've heard this term called citizen developers, or the non-IT person that does more and more tech stuff. And again, I don't know if there's any evidence around this as well, but do you think an IT person that has always been focused on computer science and technology and IT stuff, do you think that they would feel threatened by more of these people kind of getting into these roles, or is it there? The lake is big enough for everybody to enjoy?
Lake is big enough.
Okay.
And what I've heard, and when I've talked to CIOs, one of the things they say that shocked them is one of the benefits of AI is augmenting software development and application development.
Sure.
So it's not going to write the entire program for you, but what it will do is maybe give you a base of code to start with. You give it some prompts, what you're looking for, and it'll give you a base of code, and then you have to, of course, massage that and add to it and customize it. It'll give you the next line of code. So suggest a next line of code for this. It'll give you that. The nice thing is now business users who never had any aptitude for coding can use artificial intelligence, generative artificial intelligence, to create their own applications for business-specific uses. They're not going to be sophisticated applications, but stuff for like marketing campaigns, advertising campaigns, that sort of thing, they can do themselves now.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important. Yeah.
I like the idea whenever we would try to develop a new, either a new content management system or a new app, and you'd be sitting with these developers and they give you this, well, here's what the app is going to look like, or here's what the integration will look, and you're like, no, I want it to look like that. So, I want it to look differently. I could see a bunch of non-techie people using AI to almost develop it themselves in the way it looks, and then present that to the engineers of the team and say, can you make it better than this? And this is what I'm looking to do. I'm
Who
I'm
knows
curious
better
to see if
Right. Who knows better what the business needs?
And on the on the flip side of that, do you think the development of again opening this tech field open to non-business would also encourage maybe IT people to explore non-IT versions of the business, like getting an IT person to understand marketing better or sales better or accounting better? I mean, the large companies I've seen a lot of people do that, but at smaller companies, you still see these silos, right? Like, Joe's in accounting and Sheila's in IT, and they never really meet except for whenever they're butting heads about something tech related.
I think it's an astute observation, and it's an inaccurate one. It's a very accurate one.
Okay, wait. Is it accurate or not accurate?
I said accurate, but it sounded like inaccurate.
Okay,
so
all right.
I wanted to repeat that.
Because you said astute, and then I thought you said it was inaccurate.
I said it's inaccurate. I meant the "and" was very just an "n."
All right.
So
sorry about
inaccurate.
that.
But it's me. So it's accurate. It's very accurate that you're going to see a merging, more or not emerging, but working more closely together with the business side of the house, the IT and the business side of the house, because of this cross-pollination being created by AI. So the business side of the house knows what it wants, but it's not going to be able to customize these applications as much as it wants to. Plus, the IT side of the house is going to have to address, erroneous data, hallucinations, copyright infringement issues, privacy issues, like I was talking about before, data security issues. One of the problems with these models, pardon me, is that they will use information input if you're using a cloud service, they will sometimes use that information to train their models. Yeah. And you have to make sure that if you're signing a contract for one of these service models for a cloud-based artificial intelligence platform, you have to make sure that they're not going to use your corporate data to train their model in the future, because that means your data is in their hands to use as they see fit. Yeah.
So I want to switch gears a little bit. You had mentioned that there's more than 100,000 open IT positions. That's on the low end, and there are
way more.
There are some estimates up to 3 million open positions. So somewhere in there is the true number. Why are there so many enterprises that are still going through pretty sizable layoffs with a lot of these open positions? Is it just that the employees they're laying off just don't fit those requirements, and they'd rather do that, let someone go, rather than try to retrain them? Like, do you have a gut feeling on that?
Yeah, I mean, my gut feeling is that the pendulum swung in the other direction a little too hard, which, again, isn't a bad thing for some of the SMBs that couldn't find talent. Now they are able to, because of these workers that were put out to pasture by some of these enterprises.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's just a bit of an overcorrection. They overhired, so they hired more people than they needed for these positions. They realized that they didn't really need them, so they started culling their positions. But now there's an adjustment being made. I think you see more of a moderation. You're not going to see, I don't believe you're going to see the big, and none of these layoffs were monstrous. Some of them were. I mean, let's not even talk about X and Twitter. That's an outlier.
Sure.
But most of these layoffs were, far fewer than even 10% of the employees. We're talking 1%, 2%, 3% of employees. But it looks big because the company that has 300,000 employees, they lay off 5,000 workers. It looks huge.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of people. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying in the big picture, it isn't for that company, for example.
And we talked a little bit about AI as one of the skills that I think people should focus on this year. Are there some other IT trends that you're seeing for the year? I think you mentioned security and privacy as well. What are some of the trends that you're seeing or that people are telling you about in your reporting for Computer World?
So I've got I just got some hard numbers in from a tech organization, CompTIA. Mm-hmm. They're a nonprofit organization that represents the tech field. And software developers, over 1 million jobs still. Web designers, AI engineers, QA analysts, stack developers, front-end developers, UI, UX designers. 1,074,000 open jobs this past year. Infrastructure, 670,000 jobs. So we're talking about system and network administrators, network engineers, infrastructure and cloud architects, support people, always hot.
Yeah.
IT support specialists, help desk specialists, field service technicians, and then, as I mentioned before, cybersecurity and enablement. So in cybersecurity, you have almost 150,000 job openings this past year: security specialist, security engineer, security analyst, penetration tester. And then in enablement, you have IT project managers, IT managers, CIOs, sales engineers, teachers. People have to train these workers, so they have to have teachers come in and do it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of job openings. So CompTIA has 3.3 million job openings in IT in the U.S.
Wow. Wow. That's a huge.
Janko Associates tends to go very conservatively, and they're the ones that said there's about 100,000 job openings. But the bottom line is that there are still a lot of jobs out there.
Yeah. Well, do you think that they might define what a tech job is or what an IT job is maybe separately? It's more specific than a, like, again, you said teachers, for example, in the CompTIA report. Like, okay,
Yeah.
Do they classify a teacher, even if you're teaching IT, does that make it an IT job, for example, versus a software developer?
Yeah, because they're still teaching tech.
Yeah.
So they would include
Yeah.
that. Yeah. They aren't.
Do you get a sense that if people are frustrated with their job search? Because we've done a couple of other episodes where we've talked with people that it's very hard to try to get through a lot of these AI filters to get to that first step of an interview. If you're not networking with other people, getting past a lot of these hurdles is very difficult. Do you find that it would be a good time for people to kind of go out on their own, start their own business, become a contractor, freelancer, things like that, or is the best thing is still to try to get a corporate company job somewhere? I don't know if you're the right person to answer that question.
Yeah, I'm not the right person to answer that. That's just not. I've always thought I'd love to open a cookie shop, but that's just me.
You know what? I've always wanted to open a diner, but then I realized I can't cook food very well. But I always like the idea of just having a diner of my own. But I also can't get up that early in the morning. I'm talking myself out of that job.
No, yeah, me too. I'm a good baker. That's about it. My wife's the cook. We need to get back on track here.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is that raises are going up this year for IT. I mean, salaries are going up.
Yeah.
I think on average about 2.3% on average. But some of the jobs that are really in high demand are going up much. The pay for those jobs are much higher. $150,000, $180,000 for some of these developer jobs. Engineers, project managers, and whatnot. So, no, I think it's still a good time to get a corporate job. But you know what? It's a lot of fun to work for startups, and smaller companies, and there's a lot of growth opportunity out there, especially with artificial intelligence and data analysis and cloud services. So, keep your mind open to something other than just. And I don't want to mention any specific company, but other than just the go-to kind of enterprise jobs.
Sure.
They're great, and there's usually a lot of security with them, but there's not as much advancement opportunity in some of those bigger enterprises. And when you grow with a small company, there's lots of opportunity to learn and for advancement. And I think you'd mentioned before that a lot of folks aren't planning to stay with their job more than a year.
Yeah.
That's not uncommon these days, though. And that's how people move up in their careers. When you and I came in, you moved up in the same company. I mean,
Sure.
I've been with IDG for 23 years.
Yeah.
I enjoy the stability of that. But young people, they're young. They want to try new things. They want to move. They're open to moving to different regions, geographies. Also, you have a lot of remote work opportunities that you didn't have when we were starting out.
Yeah.
So they're willing to move and advance through new jobs.
I think
so
also,
surprise me.
the job hopping experience or that process is not as negative as it used to be. I think again, even when I was moving up, you would be like, if you get a new job, you hold on to it for 2 to 3 years, and then you start looking again. And I was always amazed. I had a friend who worked at IDG, and he was there for like maybe a year, and then he left and went to the next company, and then he worked that for 6 months, 9 months, went to another company and moved up that way. And I'm like, wow, I can't believe that you're getting these jobs having done this, and he's like, well, that's just the way it is now, or that's, you know, he was fine with doing that job hunting or job hopping thing. I think also it's generational too, as you start getting family and other commitments that you end up, sticking around.
Absolutely.
All right.
Job hopping's for the young bucks.
Yeah. So overall, it's still a good market for IT, but be aware that there might not be as many openings as there was last year, but that it's still not as bad as the general job market might be.
No. Technology is still looking really hot.
And even the general market seems still, there's still a lot of openings out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to drop down Manpower Group. You know, it's a global staffing firm.
Yeah.
They just came out with some numbers, U.S. numbers. Net employment outlook for Q1 2024 is up 35%. That's 6% more than last year, but down, like I said, about 1% from last quarter.
Right.
So a slight downtick, but still really hot.
Yeah.
And they actually list IT or technology as the number one vertical for jobs.
All right. So it's always good to be in tech.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Lucas, again, thanks again for joining us to talk about this stuff. Always fascinating, just talking about IT jobs in general.
My pleasure.
All right. That's all the time we have for today's episode. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, add any comments that you have below. Join us every week for new episodes of Today in Tech. I'm Keith Shaw. Thanks for watching.